Dear Mom and Dad, I haven't told you a lot of things yet. Sometimes I think it's because I moved out when I was 18 and started signing my own consent forms. I think sometimes it's because you searched for homes in communities that didn't speak much English, and I in communities that spoke too much of it. Dear Mom and Dad. I don't know if you remember this, but I still remember your first words on American soil, one hand on the luggage, the other as though it was dipped in oil, but still firmly clasped around my fingers. Come on, let's go. This is your new home. Dear Mom and Dad, I still remember when you left everything you knew for 30-some-odd years, and when Grandpa died, you still managed between the tears. I didn't know that was the last time I'd see him. I've seen them seep in, seen through the deep end of your struggle as I searched for home and friends and you in international aisles that always seemed to end in sadness, and all we'd ever ask was, why don't we have this? You were just trying to find us an address that didn't have cockroach-infested basements. Dear Mom and Dad, do you remember when you said that all of this would be worth it if I made it to the Ivy League? Well, I made it to the Ivy League, but Mom and Dad, I haven't told you a lot of things yet. Like how I still remember when we couldn't afford couches. And so you made them out of sheets and pillows and read stories with me about the weeping willow wilting away, wary of your small children, wallets waist deep in wanting. No task was too daunting for Dad to dive in the whole distance. Darling, you said we did this all for you. Dear Mom and Dad, I never got to tell you about my anxiety and how they put me on Lexapro for 6 months, 6 weeks, 6 pounds, too weak to not go on academic probation. I swear the only reason I stayed focused were because my eyes, every time I'd close them, I'd be reminded of my ties to you. And I guess this is the struggle we have as children of this millennia, as children of immigrants. They say it with such disgust, as though the M were dirt, the egg stuck to your teeth, and by the time they got grant out, it was a feat to be marveled at. Dear Mom and Dad, I don't think they cared, but I noticed when you took me to the doctor and you really had to focus to explain what was wrong, the English spilling out of your mouth like a door hinge that hasn't been oiled in a while, and even though you'd done all the hard work, you still took us out to make sure we'd go home with a smile. Dear Mom and Dad, I think I forgot to thank you for raising me as a Muslim, for teaching me about the prophets. I still put them in the pockets in my heart that you carved with your own 2 hands. I wish instead of being embarrassed, I would have taken a stand when the other kids laughed at you. I'm sorry. Dear Mom and Dad, I hear a lot of stories in college. They tell me about the gods and the monsters, about the Romans and the Greeks, and about this silly little man who fell in a creek because he didn't know how close was too close, and well, because most didn't know how to use their wings wisely. See, when they tell me this story, though, they forget to mention that you were the Icarus that flew too close to the sun to melt his feathers to make wings, whether or not I took them for fun. You put them on my back. These are for you, you said. Fly as you may, dear Mom and Dad, I tell stories now, but I swear I only do so because you were the ones who taught me how. Thank you. Thank you.